Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dreamer Tribe and welcome to yet another video on this channel. This video is specifically aimed at one thing only, which is to highlight the importance of reading. Now, before you go on and say that you are someone who doesn't read, you are someone who can't read books, etc., then I want to first tell you that I myself consider myself to be someone who is never going to read in my entire life. This is where I started, but I've seen the benefits of reading and I've gained a lot of value from this habit of reading. So let's dive right in. Now, before I get into the details about the importance of reading, I'd like to first try to paint a picture in your head of how my relationship with reading has evolved over the years. Now, don't get me wrong, I was a pretty good student in school. My marks, my grades were decent, and I could perform, right? But I never liked books. Not the books that were taught in schools, reading books outside of the syllabus was too far-fetched. I couldn't even get myself to read the books that were taught in the syllabus, right? So my father always used to encourage me to read books. Like, I grew up hearing him tell me, you should read. And I would always say, okay, I see the benefit in it since you're highlighting this so much, and I will do it someday, right? But I picked up my first book properly after I graduated from high school. So my entire school life, I never read books. In fact, I tried to read a book when I was in the 12th grade. It was gifted to me by my father. It was Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. And I picked up the book, tried to read a few pages, put it back down, picked it up again some days and weeks later. And that little book, about 300 pages long, I took about 4 months to complete. 4 months to complete one small, tiny book. And by the time I got to the end of the book, I'd forgotten where the story began. So it was more of a no read than a book that I had in my pocket, right? So my relationship with books, it has evolved drastically over the years. I have now become a voracious reader. I'm not here to tell you all this in order to impress you. I'm trying to just make an impression and just to paint a picture of how things have evolved for me. I still remember back in the 11th, 12th grade, I lived with my cousin, right? So this was at the height of us playing FIFA. Wake up, play FIFA, go to school, come back home, play FIFA, and get really, really competitive about it. Because once you win, you have bragging rights. So at the height of us playing FIFA, day in and day out, my cousin decides to walk into my room one day and he shows me a book. And he tells me, okay, I went to the bookstore today and I've decided to pick up the habit of reading, and this is my first book. That's what he said to me, and I looked at him in amazement and I laughed at it. And he laughed too, because he and I both knew that we were far from being people who are gonna read books, right? And we even made a joke about it. I told him, my brother, come on, you and a book, you and I are gonna be never reading books, because what's the point, right? Now, fast forward many years later, I've read many books, and I am an avid advocate of reading. If you see me outside of the screen, and if you and I have a, say, deep conversation in real life, then chances are that I'm probably gonna highlight the importance of reading books. And if you are someone who doesn't read, and if you are someone that I'm concerned about and care about, then I would encourage you to pick up the habit of reading. Now, what changed in the past 3-4 years that made me go from being someone who never read to being someone who has his daily target of reading? Think about it. Now, at this point in my life, reading is a daily target. If I can get myself to read for an hour, hour and a half every single day, that is me being at the top of my game. If for some reason I'm not reading, then I'm slacking somewhere. So let me try to highlight the importance of reading for you. And this section is particularly going to speak to the section of people who do not read directly. And this is the crowd that I'm trying to address in this section, right? So the question is, why should you read, right? That's the question. That's the primary question. Now, right after high school, there was a period in my life where it was the first few months of me taking a gap year. And I used to get calls from my friends who had enrolled themselves in universities, and they used to call me and talk to me and say, okay, we're making progress here, we're making progress there. These subjects are being taught. And I, on the other hand, I was going to the gym, but I had a certain sense of guilt because I felt like I was losing out, I was missing out on the lessons, and I was not keeping up with their paces, right? So I tried to make it a point to be as productive as I could be. So one thing led to another. I tried to look for things to do and try to inculcate habits that would add more productivity to my days, right? So every single article I read, every single YouTube video I watched about how to become more productive had an element of reading. So I picked up a book for the first time, willingly in my life. That was Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. So I read through the book. Now, I do not remember everything that was written in the book, but I do remember some parts. He spoke about assets and liabilities and being self-employed and all of these stuff. But one of the things during that chapter that stuck to this day was one of my cousins. He had just landed a job, and a few months in, he decided to make a purchase. He bought a vehicle, right? Now, to me, at that point in my life, it didn't seem like a good financial decision. See, I'm not judging here. This is just what went through my own head. Because of the lessons that were outlined in the book, I realized that, okay, if I were in his shoes, I would make a different decision. I would still have that purchase, but a little later, by just making a few changes here and there in how I conduct the transactions. So the idea that stuck was, because I'm more aware, I would have made a better decision, in my opinion. So that was the foundational idea, right? And I was aware of the lessons because I read about it. So I realized for the first time in my life that I could teach myself stuff, things of genuine value. Then I kept reading one book and then another, and I got slowly introduced to the habit of reading until I came across this book called The Compound Effect. It's a short book. The author is called Darren Hardy, and the very simple idea outlined in the book is small things compounded over time yields massive results. So take for an example, say this book, right? Let's see how many pages it has. It has close to 300 pages. Now, will I finish this book at once if I'm trying to read for the first time? Probably not, right? But think about it. If I force myself to read, say, 10 pages a day, in 30 days, in a month's time, I will have finished the book. Now, 10 pages is doable, right? I think it's doable for you and I, for all of us, right? And 10 pages a day for a month will be a book. And in 12 months, in a year, that would amount to 12 good-sized books, right? So this was the little idea that Darren Hardy, through his book, The Compound Effect, planted in my head. Small things, when led to compound over time, yields massive results. Now, stretch that a little bit. Instead of 10 pages of this book, what if you stretch it to, say, 20 pages a day? That's still doable, right? So you're going to cut the time in half. And in a year, you're going to read, instead of 12 books, you're going to be reading 24 books. I mean, that sounded like a very rational argument, and that sounded very doable to me. So I decided to make reading a habit no matter what, because I was learning things of value. And not that I liked reading at that point, but I saw the benefits in it. So I decided, okay, I'm going to force myself to read 10, 15, 20 pages a day. That was doable, and that I thought was a worthy goal. The idea is very simple. Let me talk to you about a Japanese concept of growth that I've been fortunate enough to come across. So the Japanese have two concepts for growth and about how growth happens. They call it Kensho and Satori, right? Now, Kensho is basically growth through suffering, and Satori is growth through an insight. Now, let me tell you what that means. Say you're starting out at the gym for the very first time. You're 16, 17 years old. You're going to the gym for the first time, and you decide, okay, today I'm going to train my shoulders. So a lot of these movements, and say, after the first session, you have an injury, right? You have a little pull in your muscle. Something is not right. Something doesn't feel right. You have a sharp sensation of pain after the session, and you go to someone much older and you say, okay, this and this is going on, and he tells you, okay, did you warm up your rotator cuffs before you worked out, right? And you say, no, I didn't, I wasn't aware of it. Now you had the learning, right? Now you are aware of the fact that you need to warm up your rotator cuffs first before you hit a shoulder workout. But you had to suffer to have this learning. This is Kensho, this is growth through a suffering. On the other hand, say you'd read a book about bodybuilding or just working out in general, right? And they said and emphasized on the matter that, okay, before any shoulder workout, you need to give priority to warming up your rotator cuffs so that you lessen the chances of an injury. And you had step-by-step warm-up protocols, and if you followed that, you would have avoided the injury in the first place, right? So growth is happening in both ways. You've injured yourself, and when you get back, you are now better aware of the fact that you need to warm up. Or the other route is, even before you injure yourself, you become aware of all of these nuances and then save the suffering, right? Growth is present in both, right? But growth through an insight will cause you to suffer less, right? So that's the Japanese concept. Now the logic behind me telling you all this is very, very simple. Books are basically information organized by the author in a manner that is conducive to you understanding certain subjects, certain concepts. For example, let me take this book for an example. This is Tony Robbins' Awaken the Giant Within. Now, he talks about belief systems, he talks about your reference points, he talks about a lot of things, but everything is sequenced, structured, and the end goal is for you to be able to have mastery over yourself. That's the goal the author has with this book. And when you read books, what happens is essentially you're downloading data sets at once. It's like you having a conversation with the author. The logic is very simple. If you want to learn how to bake, you go to a baker. You don't go to someone who doesn't know how to bake. If you want to learn how to drive a car, you do not go to someone who doesn't know how to drive a car. You go to someone who knows how to drive a car. Now, if you want to learn how to do anything at all, and in our case, since we are on the self-improvement journey, we want to make sure that we learn how to craft an amazing quality of life, a life that is uncompromised across all realms. You want to have the money, you want to have the health, you want to have the good relationships, you want to have a fulfilling career, everything, right? Now, you and I need to go to these people who have everything and learn from them. Learn how they think, learn how they act, learn what their belief systems are, and see what can be drawn out of them. We gotta be a sponge, right? And books are incredibly valuable resources from a standpoint of doing just these, because books are collected information, collected data, and you can download information from them at will at any point in time. You do not have to wait for a teacher to teach you things. You do not have to write examinations. You do not have to write tests. You just go and read books for the sake of learning. And in that, I feel like books are very, very effective. You see, if you are someone who is hell-bent on not reading, then this is what's going to happen. Let me paint a clear picture for you. This is my hypothesis, all right? So, say this is you at the time of birth, and you are essentially empty-minded. You do not even know languages, let alone concepts about money and concepts about relationships. So from this point where you are empty-minded, you go on living, you go on living, you go on living, and you are here today with a worldview, all of your belief systems, and identity, and what I like to call your knowledge base, which is just the sum of everything that you know about the world, about yourself, about how you think the world functions, everything. So this knowledge base is essentially a big determining factor of how intelligent you are, right? So think about it. What exactly is intelligence in the first place? Now, it's not, to my way of thinking, it's not grades, it's not how much you're paid at your job, it's not how much money you're making. But to me, intelligence is basically how intelligently you live. That's all, nothing more, nothing less. If you can figure out what you want in life, and if you can get yourself to have what you want in life, then I believe you're intelligent. Now, see, from this knowledge base, you have to operate in your life, right? Now, just dissect the creation of this knowledge base. In between the years, the time you were born and right now, all of the influences that you've had, your parents, your peers, your teachers, the people you come across at bus stops and movie theaters, the books you consume, the media that you consume, all of these have added to this knowledge base. And I could argue that everything that you know has been picked up from all of these sources. Now, if you really look into it, you don't chance upon people who have seemingly everything. You don't just walk into a departmental store and meet a guy who is a billionaire, who is jacked, who is handsome, who is generous, who is kind, who is intelligent, who is articulate. You don't come across such people on accident, right? I mean, I never have had the good fortune of doing this. Now, if I want the kind of lives that they have, I need to be able to pick their brains, right? I need to be able to figure out what they do and then apply it myself so that I can produce the results that they are producing, right? It's fairly logical. I hope we are on the same page. Now, if you and I aren't going to come across such people on accident, chances are we've never come across anyone who has such a life. And this means that this knowledge base that you and I have developed over the years, which has been a product of chance and circumstance, which is basically saying you haven't taken the time to curate the information that you've taken in. You haven't taken the time to develop a mind that you really think could assist you in this endeavor of creating a fantastic life. Then chances are, if you do not read, if you do not consume information selectively, then you will operate in your entire life with this knowledge base, with this intelligence. And this is shortchanging your chances at creating a phenomenal quality of life. Why? Because you do not know how to. I do not know how to yet, but I'm trying to figure out ways to learn from these people. I mean, I'm very happy with where my health is. I'm very happy with where my intellect and the development of my intellect is because I make it a point to study every day. I'm not happy with where my professional life is. Why? Because I haven't imbibed all of the lessons that I need to imbibe about how to become a world-class educator, how to become a world-class content creator, how to arrange my business models in a way which is conducive to me attaining my financial goals. But I recognize all these. And since I do recognize my shortcomings, I can fill it in. You see? Because I'm aware of where I lack, then I can go and seek out the parts that need to fill it in. This is the final picture. You are born and you are here currently. In between all of this, you consumed all of the information, mostly unconsciously. Now you have an intelligence because of all of the life experiences that you've had. And for the most part, this has been unconscious, and this does not equip you enough to be able to go out and create an extraordinary quality of life. Now, if you are someone who's serious about doing that, to build a financial wall around your family, to be at the top of your game, to have peak health, be highly intelligent, attractive to the opposite gender, all of the things that people usually want, then it is upon you and I to make sure that you and I are taking care of the development of our intellect, because no one else is going to do it for you, right? No one else is going to do it for me. I must do it myself. No one else is doing it for you, and you got to do it yourself if you are serious about creating a life that's truly, truly extraordinary. Now, I am an advocate of reading, but I'm very strictly not an advocate of reading all sorts of books, right? Look at it this way. When you say, I am eating food, right? I like to eat food. Now, food is a big umbrella, right? You can die from eating food if the food that you're consuming is poisonous, right? And you can become an athlete. You can have the highest quality nutrition by having just food, if those are nutritious foods, right? So food is a big umbrella under which there are thousands and thousands of different kinds of food items, right? Same it is with books. Now, just because I say, okay, you should read books, not should, just because I say that I recommend people read books, Doesn't mean I recommend people reading all sorts of books. I like to read books which have what Tony Robbins likes to call profound knowledge, which is basically you read, you get an insight, and you can instantly apply it to enhance the quality of your life. See, for example, there's a little paragraph that highlights a certain point in the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. He talks about conversation generosity. Anytime you have a conversation with someone, if you make it a point to genuinely let him speak and genuinely listen to what he's saying, he's gonna like you more. Why? Because you are genuinely interested in the other person. You can instantly apply these, improve the quality of your life. So what kind of books do I recommend people reading? One big genre would be self-improvement books, self-help. There are a lot of biases here. There are a lot of people who do not like the self-help dimension. But there are certain books which, if read and applied, can change the quality of life drastically for anyone, especially people who do not know what to do. There are certain books which you can turn to and they're going to give you insights about what to do, and you can instantly see a sense of progress and you feel good about yourself and you can stack the wins from there, right? Ultimately, reaching a place where you have control over your life and you reach a good station, right? So I have a book list that I'd like to cover someday, but for now, this is the stack that I consider the essentials. Essential reading. Maybe you can just pause the video and take a screenshot, because I don't want to elaborate on these in this video because it's going to be too long, but I'll definitely cover this stack in a later video. Now, on this stack, I've read each book in the stack multiple times, obsessively. I've studied these books. I do not believe in reading hundreds and hundreds of books, but I do believe in deep diving and just imbibing from one good book over and over again. So yep, that's the stack that I'll cover in a later video. If you're still watching, then I'd like to take a moment to thank you. We're reaching the end of the video. But before I end the video, I would like to leave a final message. Really, if you are someone who is facing any difficulty in life, be it in health, be it in your relationships, be it career-wise, just know that there are people before you who faced such issues and have solved them. And they've written down about how to solve similar issues, and you can just tap into the knowledge, apply it, and improve the quality of your life. It's really that simple. But reading is essential if you're serious about creating an amazing quality of life. Trust me, I've never seen anyone who's performing at a very high level in the world who doesn't read. Trust me when I say this, I've seen zero people who do not read but are performing at a very high level. I mean, think about superstars like, say, Pele or Ronaldinho. I mean, all these people who seemingly had everything, but they fumbled, right? Look at Tiger Woods. Now, all these people, although they succeeded in their careers, they let the other dimensions of their lives falter and they suffered, right? Tiger Woods went bankrupt. Mike Tyson, for example. What reading does is it helps you figure out what the key areas in life are and helps you focus entirely on those, so that over time you take care of all of these things. You don't eliminate any element from the picture, so that at the end you can have a life that's truly compromised. Now, if you are someone who doesn't read, then I highly encourage that you do read, and you can pick any book up from the stack that I showed you earlier. And if you are someone who reads, then kudos to you. You are doing more than a lot of people around you. And if you are someone who doesn't read self-help, who doesn't read, say, spirituality, or just reads fiction, then I would like to encourage you to dabble in these genres as well. These are really helpful, not just from a standpoint of entertainment, but these can give you lessons that you can instantly apply and improve your life. That's the whole point, right? Trying to become a little bit better every single day, day in and day out. That's what Dreamer Tribe is. And yep, with this, I'd like to end the video. I will see you in the next one.